Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 13th. And yesterday was February 12th, and it would have been my son, Brandon Mendoza's 42nd birthday. So it was kind of a melancholy day. That kid knew how to celebrate and throw birthday parties. And that's one thing I really miss about him being with us, because he would throw a party for anything. He would have Monopoly Monday martini nights, or it could have been Martini Monopoly Monday nights. I don't know how he worded it, but he would figure out a way to have a party. He would have Mardi Gras parties. He would have Halloween parties. He would have Christmas parties. He would do birthday parties. Even at Christmas time, when we were making cookies, I was doing the cookies with my grandkids. He would come over and make it a cookie baking party. He just always had to have a party. So that's one of the big things I miss about his happy, celebrating type of personality. Always wanted to celebrate everything and everybody. That's one of the biggest things I miss about him. But anyway, he would have been 10 years older than he was from the last time I saw him. So I'm sure handsome as ever, but, it just makes you wonder, what would your child look like 10 years older? So spent a lot of time yesterday just kind of thinking about all of the good times that we had, the trips that we took. Thank goodness we did that. We traveled a lot together, and he had a love and a passion for photography, and we would go out a lot and take pictures of wildflowers in the spring here out in the desert, and go to like this ghost town out east of town, out by Apache Junction, and take some really cool pictures there. One time when it was going to be the harvest moon, we went out and he set his tripod up and got the moon as it was coming up over the Superstition Mountains. And it looked huge, and it was big and orange, and the light that it cast over the ghost town. He got some really cool pictures that night. So those are the types of things that I'm appreciative of, and encourage all of you to spend time with your kids and make those memories, because you know what? You never know. We don't know what God has in store for us. And make every day count. Make sure you tell your children, excuse me, that you love them every day. Make sure that they know that it's not just, familiar words that you just say all the time, that they actually know that you love them. And that's one thing I'm certain of with Brandon, is he knew that I loved him. So fighting the fight, the whole reason why he was taken from this earth so early is what my life's mission is at this point. And there's not a whole lot you can do as a private citizen. You can be an activist, and you can scream and yell and fight and go and meet our representatives in DC, meet your representatives locally, talk to you blue in the face, try and get on all these news programs. But what does it really do? Nothing. And so that's why I've decided that I need to run for office, for Arizona State Representative, to make some changes to the Arizona state laws, like Texas has done, to make it a crime for these illegals to cross over our border in Arizona, which will enable law enforcement to be able to arrest them and not allow them to enter the interior of the United States. The buck stops here is basically what Arizona needs to do, just like Texas has done. So if you all want to donate to my campaign, you can go to Mendoza for Arizona, Mendoza, FOR, and Arizona is spelled out.com, MendozaForArizona.com. I need some help. We've got 2 terrible Democratic representatives here in my legislative district. They've moved the primary up to July 30th now. In Arizona, it's normally in August, the beginning of August, the first week of August. So that's moved our deadline up to get our petitions in with signatures. So I've been out door knocking and meeting my constituents and getting signatures on my petitions to ensure that I am on the ballot for the primary. that I'm victorious then and go on to win a seat in the Arizona state legislation. We need more conservative representation, and we've got to get these Democratic activists out of there who are there strictly to push the LGBTIQ agenda, to push for obscene materials to be available to our school children, who push for, allowing abortions up until the time of birth, pushing to allow abortion to become a form of birth control instead of having the responsibility of having safe sex and knowing that there is a possibility of creating a child that is unwanted. So these are the types of people that think these are the most important issues to American citizens, and they're not. The safety of our children and the safety of our families in our country, which has been one of the safest countries in the world for forever, that is what's the most important thing to Americans right now. Anybody, all of these consensus things that they've done and polls and things, people are saying illegal immigration is the number one issue right now. So that's what every state legislator, if they are listening and if they've got their ear to the ground with their constituents and they're door knocking and they're talking to them, they will know that this is the number one issue. That and the economy, the level of crime, the safety in our communities, and the safety in our communities, our economy, all of this is tied back to illegal immigration. Illegal immigration causes the federal government to just spend taxpayer money like there's no tomorrow to support these millions and millions of people who've come over our border illegally. It overcrowds our schools. Look at in Denver, some of these hospital, a couple of the major hospitals there in Denver are ready to go bankrupt because of the amount of illegal aliens who are coming in with injuries and sicknesses, and they don't have insurance. So they're bankrupting and overwhelming our medical system. They're bankrupting and overwhelming the public assistance that should be available for American citizens who have paid their taxes and paid into those funds. We should not be bending over backwards to welcome these people who travel illegally and come into our country. And on top of it, the crime wave that is happening because of these open borders is pretty scary. And I've talked many, many times about this Venezuelan gang that has been making their way up through South America and up through Mexico and coming up here. And they've got a stronghold now in New York City. And I'm just going to go over a couple of these articles and read them to you. Hold on, and I will share this with you so that you can see it. I know this is kind of a little tedious, but I think it's really important because I don't think a lot of people read what's happening. So the brutally violent Venezuelan Trendy Aragua gang is using migrant wave to launch New York City phone robbery spree. So you saw the video of this woman who was dragged and practically wrapped around that pole there. They are snatching people's phones from their hands and speeding off. In one especially brazen attack, they dragged a 62-year-old woman down a Brooklyn street in December. And after the phones are stolen, the victims' bank accounts are drained of cash with fraudulent transactions in both the U.S. and South America, and the phones themselves are sent to Colombia to be wiped, reprogrammed, and sold. And this is the Venezuelan gang, and they're the ones who've done this. Until recent weeks, police have been concerned about rises in thefts and robberies in the city, such as a spat of pickpocketing on the subway system and around the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, being linked to low-level unorganized criminals who were among the estimated 170,000 migrants who have arrived in the city since the start of 2023. But it's not. they've realized that it's the brutal Venezuelan gang that has moved into New York City and is having its members cross the southern border, claim asylum, and is likely behind many of the moped robberies. So yeah, they cross the border, claim asylum, and head for New York City. The gangsters recruit other migrants at the shelters. They send WhatsApp saying, need phones, I have dollars, I'm available, go get them. This two-man squads on mopeds snatch phones from people using them in New York City streets. The robbers keep the phones unlocked, and rush them to the stash houses, the gang stash houses. Hackers drain cash apps and make fraudulent transactions in the U.S. and South America. And then they sent to Bogota, Colombia, and they are wiped and sold by the Venezuelan fronts, the gang fronts in South America. Who knows? They probably send them all over the place. But to think that they grab these phones as they're being used and then, keep pressing on the screen and keep it open so that they get back to the stash house and they're able to get into the Cash App, go into the bank accounts, and wipe these people's bank accounts out. This is insane that this is happening. But for weeks, I've been talking about this, and this is like the first time lately that these articles are finally starting to come out about these gangs in the last, I don't know, 2-3 weeks. Let me see. Here's another one. I'll share this with you because I saw this yesterday and I thought this is kind of scary. This New York migrant moped gang ringleader makes chilling admission about crime network. It's much bigger than me. The migrant moped gang terrorizing the Big Apple are part of an illicit network of hoods peddling stolen goods from the 5 boroughs in Florida and shipping the proceeds to South America. It's much bigger than me, the ringleader Franco Alexander Peraza Navas allegedly told the New York Police Department after getting nabbed for a string of local heists. In a million years, I never thought you'd catch me, he said. I've been going to Miami every 3 weeks, and it's much bigger than me. He is linked to an alleged part of a crew that has been linked to robberies throughout New York City, Yonkers, New Jersey, and Florida, and tied to an illegal gun use in Fort Lauderdale heist on December 9th. The same gun was used in a $279,000 robbery at Solid Gold Jewelry in Manhattan on November 22nd. And him and his accomplices are suspected in other Big Apple incidents, including a shootout with another crew in Bronx on November 18th. I mean, this stuff just goes on and on and on, these crimes. And you may not be feeling it now where you live, but trust me, this stuff is going to start spreading because the cops in New York City are going to get smart. The cops in Yonkers are going to get smart. The cops in the New Jersey area are going to get smart. And so these gangs are going to have to start spreading out because the money is needed by these gang members, these Venezuelan gang members, wherever they have settled. They've been kicked out of Venezuela prisons, and they've ended up in Ecuador, in South America, in many, many areas. In fact, I want to read something to you. Let me see. Nope. I'll have to find the article because or maybe, you know what? I'm going to have to read it to you because this woman who sends me a ton of stuff, a ton of articles, she does a bunch of research. She had sent this to me. So on February 12th, which was yesterday, the Peru government just announced 2 county states of emergency. In Lima, Peru, they declared on Monday in a state of emergency to 2 provinces of the La Libertad region, authorizing the armed forces to intervene with the police in the face of the rise of international gangs dedicated to extortion and illegal mining. The measures will be extended for 60 days and notably involves Trujillo, the third largest city in the country and an industrial axis in northern Peru, as well as the province of Pataz, where illegal gold mafias have taken root. Let's see. The Peruvian state is not going to shake its hand to confront them and neutralize them. The Minister of Defense said, there's a growing wave of violence linked to criminal organizations and illegal mining. Let's see. The authorities denounced that the organized gangs are dedicated to the hitmen, extortion, and commit acts of terror against the police. According to the authorities, organized crime has changed substantially in recent years in Peru after the migration crisis in Venezuela, the trafficking of firearms, and the presence of gangs such as the Trendy Araguaia of Venezuelan origin. I got to figure out how that's pronounced properly. So this is a huge problem in Peru. And I know it's a huge problem in Ecuador. I've been reading some articles about these gangs showing up there. This is a huge network, folks. And on top of the fact, I've talked so many times, on top of the fact that you've got $351 billion over that the federal government is spending to support these illegals who come into our country, and the over $774 billion that's going to be leaving our economy in remittances. Now you've got these Venezuelan gangs and these organized crime gangs, illegal, I might add, that are coming here and stealing things and stealing money out of bank accounts, off of phones, doing all of these robberies. How much more money is leaving the United States and being sent down to South America? How much more money? This is why I'm saying the whole reason for this planned invasion of our country was to bankrupt the United States, to bring us to our knees. And I can't sound this alarm loud enough and fast enough. But like everything else, people aren't affected, don't see it happening around them, and therefore it's not happening. That attitude has got to stop, because that attitude is basically like the Democrats who, even though they're seeing all of these videos coming from the border and the invasion happening, and these independent journalists talking to the people coming across the border, they're saying where they're from, they're saying where they're going. They see all of that, and yet they say, we don't have open borders. Well, that's what conservatives are doing when they're being warned about this kind of crap that's coming down the line, because they aren't affected by it and they don't see it. It's not that bad. I mean, I know it's happening in New York City, and I know it's happening in Chicago and California and everywhere, but it's not going to happen in right here in Kansas. It is. It's going to be happening real soon. And you're being affected because you're an American taxpayer. So in essence, every American taxpayer is a victim of illegal alien crime and the illegal alien invasion of this country, because you are being forced to support it financially. And I was just reading where the IRS refunds this year are down 30%, 30% less than what they were last year at this time. I know it's only early February, but when you're thinking about a 30% decrease in the amount of refund that you would have expected, that's a lot of money, folks. And where's it all going? It's pretty obvious. It's going to support these illegals. And don't be surprised if your local taxes start going up if you live in places like New York City or Chicago or some of these areas that are really hard hit by the illegal crime. But the bottom line is, you decided to become a sanctuary city and welcome the illegals into this country and be all inclusive and welcoming and loving. And oh my gosh, you know, the Statue of Liberty claims that we should be welcoming you all. Well, the Statue of Liberty and what happened back in the day when everybody was coming to America then, even though it was hundreds of years ago, those people did it in a civil way. They were able to keep track of people. They were able to make sure that they were medically sound. They were able to make them guarantee they wouldn't become a ward of the United States, that they wouldn't need to be taken care of, that they had a job, that they had a way to make a living. They swore an alliance to the United States. They learned how to speak English. They assimilated to what the country was becoming. None of these people who are crossing our borders right now are doing any of that stuff. They're just coming here for the economic opportunity for them. And now we're finding out that they're not even going to work. Now they're just going to resort to robbing American citizens and robbing our businesses. And then these communities where these big robberies are going on in these high-end stores, they're going to start closing the stores down. You go into some of these smaller areas in Chicago and in New York and over in California, you know, where you can steal up to $995 worth of things out of a store in California before you're prosecuted. They keep going into these stores and these pharmacies and these Walgreens and these CVS and doing this, which forces these businesses to have to close down, which leaves the American citizens with no option, but they have to travel now miles to go and get the things that they're used to having right there in their own neighborhood. And then you've got these liberal idiots who are talking about 15-minute cities. How are you going to create a 15-minute city if you've got all these illegals committing crimes, robbing all of these businesses, and then telling people, well, you're going to move into this area where it's just a 15-minute walk to whatever you need, your groceries, a restaurant, your work, place of employment, your kids' schools, and you will have to drive a car because it's all about the Green New Deal thing. So now, what if these illegals come into those areas and start robbing those stores and make it impossible for those businesses to stay open? What happens to these 15-minute cities? I mean, this thought process could just keep going on and on and on and on. When you just keep factoring in illegal alien presence in our communities, what's going to happen to the schools? What's going to happen to that homeless shelter down the street? What's going to happen to the Boys and Girls Club? Are they going to close that down to our children after school because they need it for a homeless place for these or detention area for these illegals to be? And then all the articles I'm reading about Randall Island and different areas in New York where they have these detention areas for them to be able to go and stay and sleep. They're actually creating gangs inside of there, small little gangs. And they have weapons in there. And they have drugs in there. And they're selling drugs. Because these people don't have to go through metal detectors. They don't have drug-sniffing dogs at the entrance of these encampments. These people can come and go as they please. They can go out into the community and commit crimes and come back. Oh, don't worry. We'll have food and a warm bed for you. Go out and do what you want in the community today. We'll see you back here tonight. This is so stupid, honestly. And I don't know how long this cold's going to last for me. Sorry, I have to keep wiping my nose. But, another disturbing thing, my sister Barbara sent me some articles this morning. I didn't even know this was going on. Let me see. Massive news from Texas. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you so you can see it with me. So it says massive news from Texas that seems to have become the victim of the very Biden administration program that Texas is battling against. There is very little mainstream media coverage talking about this. The story appears to have been basically blacklisted. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and co-counsel the New Civil Liberties Alliances, along with two media groups, The Federalist and The Daily Wire, are seeking to halt the censorship industrial complex, a taxpayer-funded program created to censor the media. Paxton filed an injunction against the U.S. government on February 7th, but nobody seems to know about it. Paxton and his allies are targeting Biden's program that is directed to silence any media reports or social media posts that attempt to expose the government's corruption and communist-style attacks on constitutionally protected free speech. Every last person involved in the illegal conspiracy to use the power of government to trample our First Amendment rights better buckle up, because we are not going to stop until the entire censorship industrial complex is on the ash heap of history. And what do you know? It just so happens to parallel a major 4-year delta from February 7th, 2020. Well, I'm not into the whole Q thing, but I'm going to go to this other article. Paxton files injunction to stop the Biden news censorship. So it's another big article with the Dallas Express. So we got to keep an eye on this. This is interesting. And I'm not going to get a subscription to some of these other things, the Dallas Express and stuff, in order to read the whole thing. Was able to get enough out of it before the little thing came up and blocked me. Let me see. There's a couple other that we've already done. That we've done. Here's another thing that I wanted to show you. It's funny how this is happening now. You've got Mayor Adams, during a briefing, calls on the federal government to deport those migrants who are convicted of breaking the law in New York City. This is the kind of pressure that the Biden administration needs. They need to start hearing from these mayors. They need to start pressuring them, and they need to start putting them in their jails in New York City, and then maybe even get them on buses and send them to the White House and tell them, these are your problem now. You need to do something about it. Or send them to the DHS office there in Washington, D.C. Send them over to Mayorkas and tell him he can deal with these people. This is what needs to start happening. These mayors, these governors, everybody needs to start standing up and letting them know that we're not going to put up with this. We don't have the funds. We don't have the capability of taking care of these people anymore. We've done that one. So a Mexican drug gang ran a migrant stash house in New Mexico. This was on February 12th, yesterday. I'll go ahead and share this with you and show you. This is just going to become so widespread. Federal officials are linking members of a violent Mexican drug gang to a migrant stash house raided last week in Sunland Park, New Mexico. The U.S. Border Patrol, Homeland Security, and Sunland Park Police Department participated in February 6th search at an undisclosed address that resulted in the apprehensions of 22 citizens in Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala illegally present in the U.S. Additionally, Border Patrol agents and Texas DPS, stopped 3 vehicles near the Vinton, Texas exit on Interstate 10 with another 7 migrants and 3 suspected smugglers. So Mexican authorities previously told Border Report that La Nueva Empresa, known across the border simply as La Empresa or the Company, is one of the most violent drug gangs in Juarez. In El Paso, federal officials accused one of the founders of that gang of murder, racketeering, and drug conspiracy, and linked him to the murder of a U.S. consulate employee and 2 other people in Juarez. So these gangs know that they can come into the United States, get a stronghold, do these kinds of crimes, make money. They're not only just doing it in Mexico. Now these Mexican gangs know that they can come up into the United States and open business, open their store, open their stash house. That's a scary thing. But that is what Mayorkas has created. That's what the Biden administration has created. Come on in. Everything's safe. We welcome your business. Then you've got two Romanian. Let me show you this. Two Romanian nationals, one on a J1 visa and the other awaiting a court hearing related to an asylum claim, were arrested in a vehicle stop. The agents found 101 gift cards with stolen data, burglary tools, and skimming devices in their car. So what are they doing with 101 gift cards? I don't get that. With stolen data. Maybe they're stealing them from people. But I know that that's becoming a big thing. The gift card stuff. And there was a Midland, Texas hit and run suspect placed on ICE hold. The driver struck the child while the child was trying to cross the road after school at IDEA Travis. So he's now on an immigration detainer. Of course, this is what's happening in Texas. You know, what should be happening on a daily basis. What was happening under President Trump, that ICE had the ability to coordinate with state and local jails. And when they would arrest an illegal for a crime, they had, and you know, they've got a 287G program, which is where local law enforcement and the sheriffs do some training, and then they work in coordination with ICE to make sure that these illegal criminals, when they're done serving their sentence, whether it be in a local jail or in a state prison, that ICE is contacted, they come and take that person as they're being released from jail or prison. They're not released to their family, they're released to ICE. And then ICE goes ahead and processes the deportation and takes them down to the border and says, bye. Because now you're a convicted criminal and you're not allowed into this country when you're a convicted criminal. But again, you know, you've got Congress who hasn't taken the time and the necessary movement to upgrade crossing our border illegally from a misdemeanor to a felony. That's what needs to happen. But states like Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, and Florida, that is affected by the marine type invasion down there from Cuba and areas, they can do state laws and they can go ahead and make it a crime in the states and make it harder for these people to be able to get away with committing crimes and just, you know, be released back into the country. What's really worrying is when you think about the fight that the Biden administration is putting up against Texas for protecting itself. What is going on behind the scenes and what are they going to pull out of their pocket? That's the thing that I think about several times during the day when I'm researching and going through all of this stuff. Texas is in a really good place right now, showing this country that when you become united and stand up against a treasonous government, which this is what I believe the Biden administration is, they're treasonous. They're allowing an illegal invasion. They see the amount of crime that's being committed across this country. They know the amount of federal dollars that is being used to support this. And they know there's additional state, county, and city funds that are being, taxpayer funds that are being used to support this on top of the federal dollars, and they don't care. And you've got Mayorkas that will continually say that the border is not open, the border is secure. In fact, I think today, I'm going to look this up real quick because Andy Biggs was putting out yesterday House vote on Mayorkas impeachment again after failed attempt. Oh, House to vote on Mayorkas impeachment again after failed attempt. So this is today. So they're expected to vote for a second time in a week to impeach Mayorkas after Republican leaders suffered an embarrassing defeat in their first attempt. So he narrowly survived last week's vote after a group of Republicans who said President Biden's border chief did not commit impeachable offenses. I'm going to go ahead and share this with you so you can see it. Did not commit impeachable offenses for his handling of the U.S.-Mexican border crisis, voted with all Democrats to sink it. Republicans vowed they would try again once House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who's been undergoing cancer treatment, returned to Washington. He will be back to work this week, giving them another vote that is expected to tip the scale in their favor, barring any absences. So the vote comes the same day as a special election in New York's 3rd Congressional District to replace former GOP Representative George Santos, which could further narrow the House's Republican majority. The possibility of Democrats picking up the swing seat puts pressure on Republicans to move quickly with another vote. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, a Minnesota Republican, expressed confidence on Tuesday that the vote would be successful this time. Now, I know that some of the arguments on the Republican side have been, you get rid of this guy and you bring in another one under this administration, and it's going to be the same crap. They're just going to be continuing to do the same thing. No. I think that you have a man, Mayorkas, who was hell-bent on being in this sort of position under this type of an administration so that he could push his agenda and what his plan has been all along. You know, you can go back through my podcast and look at my whole hour that I did on Mayorkas, and it explains where he came from up through the ranks, through the federal government, and why he would be doing what he's doing where he's at. The other thing that I have issue with is I don't think that we should have a Cuban refugee, a Cuban immigrant heading DHS. I think it should be a full-blown American citizen. I think you should have somebody who understands why the Department of Homeland Security was created after a terrorist attack on the United States. Protect the homeland, protect from an invasion, protect from the threat of more terrorists coming in. And what do we have? Hundreds and hundreds of in fact, I think they were saying the Border Patrol has released 30,000 plus suspected terrorist-related people coming into our country. That's pretty scary. That's pretty scary. And then there's been the ones, I think it's been a little over 300 that they've actually apprehended and done something about. So, yeah, I have to go in and take care of something. There's a troll who's on the feed, and maybe explain why red states have been so poor for so many decades. What poor red state did you get your education? You sound like about an 8th grade education level. You lived off your husband's monies he got while the getting was good. That makes your right stream media regurgitation that much more pathetic. Well, you're kind of stupid if you think that my dead son is my husband. And then he has to use profanity. Yeah, I've got to take care of this right now before he puts more stuff, because it's just not very respectful, and I don't think that the people who are watching the live stream on Angel Families Angel family, this real. I don't think that they need to not. Oh, I'm sorry for this interruption, people. Oh, well, I don't know where he's commenting from. Okay, sorry for that distraction, folks. But when you see that type of thing, it's kind of like there are some really uneducated, stupid people in this world who do nothing but go around on social media and try and troll people who are trying to make a difference. And the comments that they make are so irrelevant and have nothing to do with the topics that are being discussed. It's just an attempt to shut another voice down that may be making a difference. And that's what kind of makes me think that this person is coming on here now, because I've noticed that my viewership is up. I'm having more engagement with people, and therefore you're going to have these trolls that come out and try and suppress you. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of cancel culture many, many times. And the big question is why? I'm not that big of a voice in the big scheme of things. But why does cancel culture come down on me? Why did cancel culture come down on me and at the 2020 RNC? Because I was the only person talking about illegal immigration. They had to get me out of there. Why did I have my October surprise here in Arizona during the 2022 election? Because they got to get rid of me, because they know the changes that I want to make here in Arizona. They know I'm a strong conservative voice. They know that I'm going to be a strong conservative legislator. And my goodness, they can't have that here in Arizona, because the plan is to completely turn Arizona from red to blue. And that is one thing that I cannot stand by and watch happen. Arizona is a very, very, very conservative state. I door knock, I go around and I interact with people, and I'm telling you, it's conservative. Even my legislative district is conservative. We may have more independent registered voters in legislative district 9 than we do Republicans or Democrats. But these independents are conservative minded. They may be disgruntled voters who decided that I don't like Trump and the way that he tweets, and I don't like Orange Man, he's bad. And so they decided they were going to become independent because they didn't want to be associated with him. But you know what? Bottom line is, those people, and even all the registered Democrats and the unregistered Democrats and the unregistered everybody, all of those people benefited off of the policies and how things were going during the Trump administration. So hate them all you want. But when you compare the 4 years of Trump to the 3 years of Biden, there's a huge difference, folks. We're not only feeling it in our wallet, we're feeling it in the safety, the sense of safety that we feel in our own country. We're feeling it in seeing our country slip away right before our eyes. Do you know how many people that I talk to as I'm door knocking, and friends and people at our legislative district meetings, and even people out of my state, people that I talk to on the phone? The biggest thing is that I hear people say, and I agree with, is it's so scary. Like, what is going to happen to our country? I don't see how we can ever come back from this. How do these people get away with these crimes and they're never prosecuted? When a conservative can do this sort of crime and be prosecuted 10 times more than what they should have been. What's going to happen to our country? Where are we going from here? Oh my God, what kind of country are we leaving for our grandchildren? This is the main types of comments that people are saying nowadays. And it's worrisome and it's scary. And then, you've got all these people, a lot of these Democratic representatives say things like, we need these illegals though, because there's all these job openings. There's not all these job openings. And I've talked about this before last week. I know a lot of people who are applying for jobs, 2 and 3 and 5 and 10 jobs a day, and they're never even given a call back. They're overqualified. They're qualified. And then they go to this business the next week, and there's some illegal, barely speaking English type of person who has gotten this job. This isn't right, folks. I can't tell you how many times I call into one of my service providers, and I can't even understand the representative that's on the phone. They've outsourced a lot of their customer service calls to other countries. And you can't understand the people that you're talking to. It's so frustrating. I just dealt with that the other day, and I can't remember what company it was. And I was appalled that they had somebody like this actually manning a call coming from the United States. I could see if they had service calls coming from their own country. But when they have calls coming from the United States and they have somebody who can barely even speak the language, or their accent is so heavy that you have to struggle and keep saying what, I feel rude when I have to keep saying what did you say? But this is reality, and this is what the world has become, because it's cheaper to send these types of jobs over to these other countries. When you've got minimum wage going up here, crazy. And I don't know if any of you saw that video of Yellen, I can't remember what her title is, but she was being questioned by, I can't remember who. It was a congressional hearing, but they were saying these prices are here to stay, aren't they? And she's like, well, minimum wage has gone up, so it's going to cover, the increase of cost. No, these prices are here to stay, aren't they? Well, again, minimum wage has gone up, and so people are able to afford things better. No, that isn't reality. Not only have prices gone up, but if you go to a fast food place, prices have gone up, but the size of a hamburger has gone from this to this, and the price has gone up on top of it. And the minimum wage has gone up, and the person at the drive-through window can't speak English very well. So that is reality of what's happening. Look, I know, I think every month, I think I'm so thankful that I bought my house back when I did, and I have an unbelievable interest rate, because I look at what the houses are selling for in my neighborhood now, and I'm stunned that this is even happening. And, I'm a real estate agent here in Arizona, and I look on MLS and multiple listing service, and I'm seeing what houses are selling for. And these are prices that I thought would only be in California, like a 990 square foot home. And this has actually come down a little bit in price of what things were going for a year ago. But a 998 square foot home is going for like $400,000 on a teeny tiny lot in a historic neighborhood. Really hasn't been remodeled that much. But now you've got, historic type overlays put on this home. There's only certain things that you can remodel and upgrade. The outside needs to stay a certain look. So that adds to things. But I was even looking at some of the areas where, oh my gosh, I would never take a client into that area. Looking at the homes and looking at the pictures of them and the conditions and the work that needs to be done on the house. And it's a 1,200 square foot home for almost $500,000, $500,000. This is craziness. This is what Bidenomics is all about, making things unobtainable. I don't know how any of you and where you're located, but if you're seeing an increase of apartment buildings being built in your neighborhoods, that's going crazy here in Arizona, in the Phoenix, the Valley, and all the outlying cities and communities. The apartment buildings that are being built is astronomical, but the goal of the elites and the people running the Biden administration and all the bureaucrats is to make it unobtainable for American home ownership. So first-time home buyers are unable to come in and buy a home because interest rates, because of the price of the home, and it makes it unobtainable. I don't care what, the increase of minimum wages. When you've got a 1,500 square foot home for $750,000 and the interest rate is almost 8%, come on. But then you have all these apartment buildings going up, and you can rent a 2-bedroom apartment for $2,500 a month. I mean, it is crazy. But all these, so the elite wants to make it possible for the investors to come in and be able to buy up all of these properties because they pay cash. Cash is king. And so even if you had a possible first-time home buyer in a bidding war against an investor, the seller more than likely is going to take the cash offer. Because A, they normally don't make it, that the house has to appraise for the sales price. A lot of these investors will just go ahead and pay cash, and they don't care. They don't even get it. They don't even get an appraisal. But a home buyer who's getting a home loan has to get an appraisal. And so those sort of things, back when it was a crazy 10 years ago, when the market went so crazy, and then it, of course, created all of those foreclosures because people were overbuying, the feds came down heavy on the appraisers because they were just appraising every house for whatever the sales price was, not really doing the work that they needed to do because they were so overwhelmed because things were happening so fast. So things aren't like that anymore. An appraisal does have to happen. And anyway, so these investors are coming in, buying up all of these properties, and individual home ownership is becoming next to impossible. I had a client who actually listed their home and got a cash offer from an investor immediately after we listed it. And they said, well, we want to wait and hold off. And they held off about 4 days. And we got a contract from a newly divorced father, and with a letter from the realtor saying that the father wants to stay in this neighborhood because that's where his now ex-wife lives. And they share custody of the children, and he wants to be close to the school. And it was less than the cash offer, definitely, from the investor, but the sellers decided that that's who they were going to sell to. They wanted their home to go to a family, somebody who was going to take care of the home, love it, who wanted to be in that neighborhood, who wasn't just an investor, who was going to turn it into a rental property. And you know what? You got to give kudos to those people, because that's the kind of attitude that more homeowners need to have, home sellers. We need to stop these elites in their track. We need to stop the investment companies from coming in and buying up whole neighborhoods. And then you've even got the investors who are coming in and buying up big pieces of land and then building these small 1,100, 1,200 square foot homes that are on top of each other. And they're gated communities, and they have a community pool and whatnot. And the homes never go for sale because these investors have built these homes to be rental properties. There's 2 or 3 communities like that here in the East Valley in the Phoenix area. So, there's a lot of things going on in this country. And then what's amazing to me is you've got a president who was deemed unfit to even face a jury on an indictment for the document hoarding, who goes on TV and argues that he is fit. So indict him then. If he's arguing against the fact that he's been told that he's too forgetful and too whatever, and he's arguing against that point, okay, he's gone on national TV as the president of the United States arguing that point. Indict him. Let's see him go let's see him go and talk to a jury. That's one funny thing. Then you've got another funny thing where you got Kamala Harris just biting at the bit because, there's so much talk over what's going to happen that they're going to get rid of Biden and bring somebody in at the convention. And all Kamala Harris can talk about is abortion. That's all I see on our social media. Women's rights, abortions, Roe versus Wade, Trump's the enemy, um, because he's got this overturned with the Supreme Court people that he put into place. Hey, news alert, Kamala. Abortion and killing babies is not the number one issue of Americans. The open border, the economy, and the crime soaring in this country are the three biggest things, and you better get on board and start talking about the things that matter. But they're too focused and too intent on abortion and the stupid issues that really don't mean anything to Americans. That's not the number one issues that we have. I am way past time. I need to skedoodle, but I'm trying to line up some very interesting guests to have here in the next, hopefully one this week, and then a couple of really good ones next week. So stay tuned. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we will see you tomorrow.